Right, I did this whole spiel and then at the end realised I'd just taken a photograph of myself. So this is the second take. There's been a bit of a gap between the last episode and this one because I've been away in Bavaria for a week. Me and my partner went to stay with a friend. I've not been to Germany before and I'd not been to Bavaria, obviously, so it was beautiful. The weather was lovely. Our friend lived very close to a river where you could walk into a lovely medieval town with a castle and lots of lovely cafes. Sampled quite a lot of Bavarian food. So we had a wonderful time, and then we came back, and for a week I was so chilled out I couldn't be bothered to do much at all. I did a little bit in my garden. And now, unfortunately, Scotland is, unlike a lot of the rest of the country, we are raining. So I'm back in the workshop. I'm doing episodes 19, 20 and 21 this week, which are the kitchen chair, the floor of the living room, and the wall between the hall and the living room. I had a few comments from people. Linda and Marianne. Marianne's from Belgium, which is really quite amazing somehow. Which is really nice to get comments because it does make you feel like you're not just spouting off into the ether. As Linda said that she preferred a commentary rather than the silent treatment I was giving in the speeded up footage bits. Because she likes to listen along while she's making her own miniatures. And I completely understand that because I do the same. I have kind of a YouTube miniaturist on in the background while I'm working away at my own stuff. And I look up occasionally and see where they're at, but also have the kind of commentary going on. So I've got some company in a way. I like Little Gretchen's workshop, Rick Miniatures and Julie Warren. So I will put commentary on. I'm quite new to this, so I'm learning all the time, and I'm really up for people making suggestions like that. So please do comment. I'm really interested to know what you'd like to see and how you'd like me to kind of present these this Del Prado journey. Everything's a journey nowadays, isn't it? You can't have your breakfast without it being a journey. Anyway, I will get on with the making, and then there's a little surprise in the middle, courtesy of my friend Gaynor. So I did thank her when you get to that clip, but if you're watching Gaynor, thanks again. I won't say any more about that. If you stick with it, you'll see what I mean. And I will come back at the end and kind of do a recap on where we're at. So see you on the other side. I do apologise for the glare on these at times. I have attempted various things, including turning all the lights off, and they're just glossy, I think, and they just reflect with the camera. If anyone's got any ideas, then please do let me know. I'm, as you probably realise, no expert on this video malarkey. Anyway, we have 19, which is the right hand partition wall of ground floor with the usual one sheet of instructions for what is a pretty crucial part in some respects. The more important and the more complex a piece is to put in place in this kit, the least instructions you have with it. But we're just kind of ploughing on. Two pieces of really nasty wallpaper that we won't be using. The piece itself, which is pretty grotty wood. I keep just complaining continually at the moment. That is a little bit bowed. Now I could straighten that out by kind of spraying it with water and then letting it dry flat, but I think it's got enough give on it that it should work without doing that. This piece here and this piece here, if you're going to make one of these kits, is very fragile. So you just watch yourself with that bit there. The first one I did of this, it snapped off completely. I do have spares, but I think what I may try and, I don't know if I can even strengthen that. I'll have to think about that bit there, because I don't really want the same to happen. Okay, so that's that bit. 20 is the two kitchen chairs. I have made these before, so I'm going to make them so that they fit in with the kind of wood and yellow of the colour scheme in Frida Kahlo's house. I'll just put those to one side. Oh, bits falling off already. And then you see how many we've got. 2 pages of comprehensive instructions here for a chair, and a plan, which are huge. It's really strange. Some of the pieces, the plans are really small, and some of them are much bigger. But, hey ho. Right, a piece of cardboard, because I've said before I used to make notebooks out of, and I will be doing a video on that. And then we're on to 21, which is the right hand downstairs floor, which has actually got a not bad piece of parquet flooring. So I may use that. I haven't really been using the flooring that I've given us so far, but that one is quite nice. So those are the pieces. And I'll just have a quick flick through the magazines. I think at the moment it is just the carrying on with furniture. And I keep saying, but if you are interested in Dolls House furniture and dolls houses in general, if you don't even want to make the kit, if you can just get hold of these magazines, and I would recommend them, because they have loads of information in, and loads of plans and projects for lots of things, not just furniture. As we go through them, there's lots of other stuff to see. So here we've got tables and a plant stand. We've got an Edwardian lady in a parlour, and all the plans to make a sofa there and a chair. That looks quite good fun, doesn't it? And shade. I used to have one of these. I lived in an old cottage and I had one of those, and my current house is tiny and it wouldn't fit in, but I do miss my chaise. I did wonder whether I could make one for this house. I'm not sure if there's room in it. I might make that. We'll see. Upholstered side chairs, tasselled cushions. Quite interesting showing you how to make little tassels for cushions. I make a lot of cushions and I sell them, and I've never tried that. It's talking about the kind of ornaments you can get, like white metal ornaments that you can then paint yourself. And then it's going on to a bedroom room box. So that's the plan of the room box, if you actually want to have a go at making your own room boxes. So that was 19. 20. It will continue with the room box. Oh wow, it's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. Really nice. I do like that little single bed. So yeah, you get all the plans for all the furniture in that room. Some of it looks a bit complex to me, but I kind of think you'd need a fret saw for, which I do have, but if you were just starting out you wouldn't have. And then we're on to a Victorian bedroom with a real patchwork quilt. So, and again, they keep trying to get you to make chairs which look absolutely fiendish, and that's got woven seats. I think it would take someone with more patience than I possess to have a go at that one. And the last magazine for this episode is 21. Oh, got the pattern, actual patterns for that painted furniture there. I'm absolutely terrible at anything like that. I love art, but my painting skills are zero. I've got another bedroom with, it says here, a comfortable bed, a good book, and his cat for company helped to make a poorly old gentleman feel better. I think he was the guy we saw in the previous episode cleaning his shoes. Maybe the effort has made him ill. Okay, so here's the pattern for that patchwork quilt. And now we have a room box for a 1950s sitting room. And this is the other good thing about these magazines. They have lots of things from different eras. I mean, in Dolls House terms, the Victorian era seems to dominate, but there are others. And this one, I've never seen a fireplace like that in real life before. I don't know if anyone else has. Interesting looking construction, that fire. Tiled fire, oh, it's a convector heater apparently, but I've not seen that before. So you get these kind of mid-century sofa and cabinets and things. There you go, it's showing you how to put that all together. Right, so now we need to crack on with our pieces of wall and floor and our kitchen chairs. Right, my first attempt at a voiceover, and here I'm spreading glue all over the floor and my fingers so that I can then stick that parquet flooring down. I'm just using my $3.99 wood glue that seems to be working really well for these things. So the glue's all spread out and now the flooring's going down. It's a bit rucked up, but I'm smoothing it as best I can. I'm not that bothered because it's going to be covered with a lot of furniture and rugs and things. Some people use a credit card, but I don't have a credit card to hand, so I'm just using a great big set square just to try and get as many lumps and bumps out of it as I can. I'm not that, as I said, not that fussed. I'm just doing the best I can with what I've got. And now I'm weighing it down with some heavy art books. It's always good to have a few heavy art books. So I'm priming the wall now with my Rustin's undercoat. I forgot to take the door out, so that's the first job here. I need to keep that door. I've got ambitious plans for the doors, and then I'm getting on with the undercoating. I think it's good to use the best undercoat and best paint that you can afford. What I would say here is that initially I was putting lining paper on these and then painting, but I basically forgot when I did the back hall wall, and I just primed the wood and they're turning out fine. So I'm not bothering with the lining paper anymore. I'm just priming with this Rustin's primer and then painting. I'm painting the hall side of this wall the same colour as the rest of the hall, and it's a Dulux tester pot called Californian Days. I do actually do 2 coats, although I only show one in the video. I really like these things with the little rollers. They're very effective for walls and they do a good job, very quick and pretty smooth job. So now we're on to the kitchen chairs, and I'm just taking the chairs out from the framework. They came out okay. Occasionally I needed to use the craft knife, but generally the bits sort of fell out. Sometimes the bits for this kit fall out in the packaging, so you have to be a bit careful with that because they're so old, and the wood's quite dry now, I think. So they're quite delicate, and you do have to be pretty gentle with them. But I was trying to sort the bits out so that I use the relevant pieces now. So we're on to sanding. Our video wouldn't be complete without a bit of sanding, would it? And then after I've sanded, I'll remove the sanding dust with a bit of lint-free cloth. These tiny little bits are fiddly, but you just have to keep going, really. I'm going to varnish the seats of the chair with this pine satin varnish so that they reflect the chairs in Frida Kahlo's kitchen. I'm doing both sides and then setting them down on the freezer paper. They won't stick to the freezer paper, which is one of the reasons I like using it. You can paint both sides of something or varnish both sides of something and put them down, and they dry well and don't stick to the paper. After I've done that, I'm going to undercoat all the other pieces with my Rustin's primer, which there it is. So it's just now a case of painting all the little bits with the primer on both sides. Because the wood's so rough, this stuff does smooth it out a bit and allows the acrylic to have a bit of a better surface. I have varnished the seats of the chairs with pine satin varnish, and I'll give that another coat. I've primed these and I will paint them the same yellow as the table, and then we'll have something that kind of roughly resembles the chairs in Frida Kahlo's kitchen. Hers have obviously got the wickery type back, but I'm working with the Prado House and they're all wooden, so I'm just going to paint them yellow. I'll just do one coat of primer. Quite often I will do 2 coats of primer on furniture, but because these are quite small and delicate, 1 coat's going to be enough, and I will lightly sand those and then get on with painting them yellow. It's been a while since the last part of this video. The weather improved dramatically in Scotland, so I've really been outside in the garden and not been in the workshop. But I'm now finishing off this chair, 2 chairs actually. So I'm going to give the seats another coat of the soft pine satin varnish. And then I'm going to paint the rest of the chairs yellow, the same colour as the table. I think if I'm clever, I will only need to do the top of this, won't I? I've given the bottom 1 coat. No one's going to look at the bottom of a chair, are they? Oh, I might as well do it. I've got some on the brush. There we go. That's that one done. Right, I'm going to have to keep those bits away from that. I might get another piece of this freezer paper. I don't want varnish getting on those bits. I can't remember how many coats I gave the table. It may well have been 3. But we'll see. Oh, that one's very gooey up there. Right, yeah, I should get another piece of freezer paper and move the rest of the chair bits onto something cleaner. I'm just cleaning the brush off here with the varnish. I'll go and clean it later with soapy water, but I'll just get the worst of it off for now. Another piece of freezer paper. Move that over. While I'm doing this, I thought I said I'd share with you the details of Frida Kahlo's injuries when she had the accident in the bus. So I will read you a list as I'm painting. If I can find the brush I was going to use to paint with. There it is. So a steel handrail pierced her abdomen and exited through her pelvis, damaging her uterus. Her pelvis was fractured in 3 places, and this injury caused her problems when she wanted to have children. She never actually had any children. She had several miscarriages, and some of her art details these miscarriages. I think that caused her a great deal of sorrow, not being able to have children. Her sister Christina had children that she was very fond of. This sister also has an affair with Diego Rivera, Frida's husband. So that caused issues, as you can imagine. They did eventually reconcile, but I think it took a while. It's shocking, really. She did say at one point that there had been 2 accidents in her life, the bus and Diego. I think a lot of us have probably had accidents regarding men. Anyway, what other... her spinal column was fractured in 3 places. She was in huge amounts of pain, I think, with her back for most of her life, and quite often had to wear corsets to support her back. There has been talk, from what I've read now, that the corsets may have actually made things worse by causing the muscles to kind of weaken and wither around the injury. So I think some of the treatment she got was probably a bit questionable when it's compared to what would have happened to her now, but it is pretty much miraculous that she survived at all. Her right leg was fractured in 11 places. Stephen King, the author, actually he got mowed into by a van when he was walking on a road, and one of his legs got completely fractured to the point where the surgeon said that it was like marbles in a sack, and it sounds like poor old Frida went through a similar thing. Her right foot was crushed and dislocated. This also caused her problems walking. She used to call it, when she wrote letters, she called it her hoof, that she was having issues with her hoof. And a friend said she couldn't really walk more than 2 blocks without needing a rest. So her mobility was quite impaired, really. She did have various operations on her back and her foot, over 30 surgeries in all. But in the end, her leg and her leg had to be amputated. That was some years later, quite a few years later. And she made herself quite a cool false leg with a red boot on it. If you can have such a thing as a cool false leg, that doesn't sound very politically correct, does it? So before, one of the reasons why she liked the traditional dress that she used to wear was that it did cover up her injuries and her issues. I think I might have said before as well that her leg was withered because she had polio as a child. Other injuries did she have? Her collarbone and her 3rd and 4th ribs were broken. Her left shoulder was dislocated. So she was really crushed and beat up by that accident. It was absolutely terrible. Look, a few people did die in it. I think when she decided that she wanted to marry Diego, her mother wasn't very in favour. There was a huge age difference between the 2 of them. Her mother said it was like, I can't remember now, something like a beast and a dove, really, but I can't remember the exact quote. I know she described Frida as a dove. Diego was morbidly obese, very, very tall, and she was very petite. Her father was all in favour of the match, and in the book I read, the kind of speculation was that the reason he was in favour was because he knew that she was going to require a great deal of medical care throughout her life, and they didn't really have the money for that, whereas Diego was a rich and successful artist. So he kind of gave the match his blessing on those grounds, they reckon. But they did, you know, Diego and Frida, they got divorced and then got remarried, I think a year later. They both had numerous affairs, but always seemed to gravitate towards each other. It sounds like a, to be honest, what you'd call these days a rather toxic relationship. I've got a newspaper cutting. I think I might try and miniaturise that, because it's quite funny, given that she is now the more famous of the two, because it says famous painter's wife dabbles with painting. Famous artist's wife dabbles with painting. Little did they know what was going to happen in the future. I mean, I'd never really, even until I've read the book, I'd never even really heard of him. I don't know that much about art, I admit, but everyone's heard of Frida Kahlo, haven't they? But I don't think so many people have heard of him, whereas for much of their life it was definitely the other way around. That tends to be the story with women. They get very overlooked. I have got plans for another house when I finish this, because I do have a big house of my own that I've been kind of renovating for a while, and initially it was going to be for a family, but now I'm thinking I'd quite like to make it into a women artists house. As in a few women living there, but sort of famous artist women. Kind of imagine they were all living in this big house together. I think that might be quite fun, because it has. I got kind of quite away with that house, and then I've lost interest in it completely. And I think it's because I couldn't really envisage who was going to live there, really. Me and my partner had this kind of thing with that it was going to be a family of cobblers who didn't get on for some reason. They were called Mr. Knobbly and Mr. Bobbly and their family. But I don't know, I will do something for Mr. Knobbly and Mr. Bobbly, but I really at the moment are into the kind of idea of merging the art and the art history and the miniatures. I've always been interested in art, even though I don't know much about it, and that just appeals to me. So Mr. Knobbly and Mr. Bobbly may end up living in a smaller cottage that's a kit in the loft as we speak. But you know, these things take time, don't they? I will, from now on, I do intend to carry on doing videos of my miniatures. So eventually you will see possibly a women artist's house and possibly Mr. Bobbly and Mr. Knobbly's family. Right, so they all need to dry now, and I need to wash my hands because I've covered them in yellow paint. So now they're dry and I'm giving them a light sand. The paint was a bit thick, really, for the kind of delicacy of the piece. And it's gone a bit lumpy, so I'm just trying to sand off the lumps. And at this stage I'm just using a flat sandpaper, but in order to get into the little gaps in the chairs and the little notches, I started to cut down nail files, just cheap emery nail files. So here you can see me cutting up a nail file so it will fit in the little slots at the back of the chair, and also in the notches where the bits are going to fit together. If you're going to do that, then it is worth keeping a thicker bit of the emery board at the top so that you've got a kind of purchase on it. And I find it's really effective. You know, you can buy tiny tools, but if you can make a tool out of something you can get from a pound shop, then why not? And here you see I'm just kind of cutting a narrow strip out the bottom of that one, but keeping the top wider. And I've not really found the need to buy a narrow sanding tool. I just use my pound shop emery boards. And I wanted to put a second coat on, but I found the paint quite thick, so I've mixed it with a bit of water. And I've never done this before. It sort of puddled a bit on the wood. So then I ended up blotting it off with a kitchen towel, and it actually gave a really nice coverage. And I definitely will do that again with smaller miniatures, because it just seemed really effective to just thin the paint down a little bit. Obviously you can only do it with water-based acrylics. You can't do it with a gloss paint, an oil-based gloss paint. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. It gave a lovely finish, as much as possible, to pieces of wood that were very poor quality and fairly rough. But yeah, just sort of it was almost like a wash, really, rather than a paint job. I'm wondering whether you could actually use a sponge rather than a brush. I don't know. I was just, using the brush because that's what I had to hand, and I didn't realise that the paint was going to sort of puddle in that way. But yeah, a bit of kitchen roll sort of mopped up any excess fairly effectively. It did go on really nicely on those little crossbars. Is that something, that's one of the reasons I like doing miniatures, because you're always problem solving and finding different techniques. While I was in the middle of filming this episode, I got a little package through the door, and it came with a card from my friend Gaynor, and it said that she was cleaning out some drawers and she saw this and thought of me. And I thought, why do I want an old doorknob? And it has got, I don't know if you can see it, it's got a kind of etching of a guy. He looks like a bullfighter, and a Spanish bullfighter. So I thought she'd given me an old doorknob with a kind of very faded, etched picture of a Spanish bullfighter on it, because I love Spain and I go to Spain as much as I can. So I was a bit intrigued. The other thing was it didn't have a thing to screw in if it was a doorknob. So I was kind of like, oh, it's just an old doorknob, but she's kind of really lost the plot. And I was showing it to my partner, and I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, you can unscrew this bit. And when I unscrewed this bit, inside was this really beautiful little set of miniature things, like a little vase thing. I think that was probably a teapot at one point, but it's a bit battered now. It's got a lovely little painting of a rose on it. These are so fine, these little cups. Again with paintings on, and little teacup, really dainty. They're so thin, the wood. I don't know how they've done that. If it's turned, or it must be turned wood, mustn't it? And another little pot there, and two little plates, and I just can't they're just absolutely beautiful. I was so surprised. I think the lid goes on that pot. Yeah, there. Yeah, I will try. It's very difficult to kind of give you an idea of how lovely they are, really. Oh, that's fallen over, but there, I'll just turn, see if I can. I was so surprised when especially when I thought I'd got a rotten old doorknob. And when it's seen in that light, it's really lovely. They would look nice in the Frida Kahlo house, but I'm very loath to part with them, and the Frida Kahlo house is a present for a friend. So I think I'm going to keep them and use them in the project that will be my project that I'm going to keep, which I'll do next. So I just thought, thank you so much, Gaynor. They're really lovely, and I'm glad that you haven't completely lost the plot and started sending old doorknobs to your friends. I've known Gaynor for over 30 years now, and it was so nice to get this. And it will definitely take pride of place in my next project. So thanks again. So we're on the home straight with the chairs, gluing them together, and I'm just dry fitting here to make sure I've got some idea of what I'm doing, since I can't be bothered to look at the instructions. They're fairly idiot proof, even for me. The chairs really only go together one way. I do find those notches, the tab and slot things, can make things look a bit toy-like, but they do make construction slightly easier and make a piece a little bit sturdier. And I'm fitting them and wiping off excess glue there. I did the front seats glued to the actual seat of the chair, the front legs glued to the seat of the chair there. I'm doing this voiceover quite late at night. I'm getting a bit tired now. I'm hoping to get better at this voiceover malarkey. It's a bit odd watching yourself and trying to comment on it. And I did think about putting those cross pieces on, but decided to leave it until everything was dry. And here we are. I'm now going to stick the back of the chair to the seat. It was a bit of a tight fit because of the amount of paint that was in that notch, even though I had sanded it. But it was snug, but it did mean that was fairly sturdy, and that's. At the moment, that's the only thing holding, that tiny little notch is the only thing holding the back to the seat, until we have the crossbars on, so that the snugness was in my favour. You can see there the yellow leg at the front on the seat, which is a bit toy-like, but it was a compromise because I wanted the varnished wood to make it look more like Frida Kahlo's kitchen chairs. It is that sort of trying to accommodate the kit and the theme, and compromises are having to be made. Then I started with the cross pieces, one of which disappeared on me for some time, and I had to go on a bit of a hunt for it. Eventually it turned up about a foot away. That happens all the time with miniatures, and I don't know what they do. They seem to run away. Sometimes you never find these little pieces. They just disappear off. I think the borrowers come after them. This was a bit fiddly, fitting these cross pieces. Getting them lined up took a while, really. They kept sort of shooting through the notch and protruding out the front, but I just kept sort of fiddling about with them until I got them lined up, and that's all part of it. The sort of fiddling about and taking things apart and putting them back together again until you're happy. You can see that did work eventually. I thought it had worked, and then the bit shot out again, so I was almost back to square one. In the end, I held it for a little while until it taken. I just think I was sort of a bit nervous of touching it at that point because it just seemed quite volatile. But, I decided to move on to the next one and then come back to the other chair when that first one was a bit drier. Some of them went on a lot better than others. I think this was one of the easier ones. Yeah, that one was surprisingly easy, and I was very pleased about that because I thought I was going to have 3 more mini fights, and I ended up being able to construct the rest of them without too much bother. So there you go, 2 chairs. Right, so here we are, 2 chairs. I did put a coat of clear varnish on them as well. They're not what you could call fine dining, but I think they'll be fine once they're in the kitchen with everything else. It's a rustic kitchen and they're rustic chairs. One floor, which is in the light it looks a bit bumpy, but actually down flat you can't really see that very well, and it's going to be covered up anyway. And then we have one wall. It's yellow on this side and white on the other side. I've still got the masking tape to take off there. I'm not going to attempt to attach that until I've got the uprights, which I think are coming in the next couple of episodes. So once we've got those, we can start constructing the next bit of the house, which will probably be fun, given how much trouble the kitchen gave. But you know, that's part of it. If you've enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe. I am, as I say, now back on track after my holiday, and I'm hoping to get 1 or 2 videos up every week now and really crack on with this and get it finished. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!